Let's talk about a feeling, one that's really common, but that we rarely put into words. It's that quiet, nagging dissatisfaction with who we are. In this explainer, we're going to dig into what's really going on underneath all that and maybe start building an architecture for a more coherent self.
It usually starts with a thought, just like this one. It kind of creeps up on you when you're alone, maybe at the end of a really long day. It's this quiet judgment, this feeling deep down that something about you is just wrong. And look, this isn't some big, dramatic self-hatred. It's not a loud, screaming crisis. Actually, its power is in how subtle it is, how it just persists. It's like this constant, low hum of criticism running in the background of your life.
And it's that steady, gnawing dissatisfaction that's so corrosive, right? It ends up coloring your choices, your reactions, your whole sense of who you are. And it feels so personal, like it's some kind of character flaw you just can't shake. But what if we've been looking at this problem all wrong? Let's just entertain a different idea for a second. What if that feeling isn't really self-hate at all? What if, instead, it's the profound discomfort of not having a clear, stable picture of who you even are?
Well, psychology actually has a term for this. It's called self-concept instability, and it basically describes a state where your internal answer to "who am I" is just fragmented, always shifting and really unclear. And the tricky part is, from the inside, it doesn't feel like confusion. It feels like you're failing. Think about it like this. Your self-concept is your mental map of you. When that map is clear and whole, navigating your life feels pretty intuitive. But when it's made of all these torn, mismatched pieces, you just feel lost all the time. And, when you're lost, it's really easy to blame yourself for not knowing the way forward. And the research backs this up. This kind of instability is linked to some very specific things. People with a fragmented sense of self tend to ruminate more, they feel more anxiety, and that inner critic, it gets a whole lot louder. But these aren't signs that you're broken. They're symptoms of ambiguity. This brings us to a really crucial idea. That harsh inner voice, it might not actually be cruel. It's not trying to tear you down. Instead, what if it's your brain's clumsy, misguided attempt to create stability? It's trying to fix all the inconsistencies it sees. Because more than anything else, your brain craves coherence. So, to really get why your brain does this, we need to talk about how it's wired. At its core, your brain is a prediction machine. Its main job is to constantly try and guess what's going to happen next. And that includes predicting you. Now, a key player in all this is something called the default mode network. It's the part of your brain that kicks in when you're thinking about yourself. And it's trying to keep a consistent model of who you are. But when your behavior is all over the place, you're one way with your family, another with friends, and totally different at work, it creates what are called prediction errors. And to your brain, a prediction error feels like a threat. This whole state of neurological uncertainty, it's like a GPS that's constantly shouting, recalculating. That exhausting mental noise, that constant second-guessing, that's just your brain trying to find a stable signal. It's not hate. It's the sound of a system desperately trying to get its bearings. And, sometimes this whole pattern is a learned behavior. Maybe you grew up in a place where you had to change who you were to feel safe or to get approval. Your brain learned that shape-shifting was a pretty good survival skill. The only problem is, after a lifetime of adapting to everyone else, you're left with a big question. Who are you when nobody's watching? So here's the bottom line. You don't fix this by just trying to love yourself more. That's like telling someone with a ripped-up map to just navigate better. It doesn't work. The goal isn't to fix yourself, it's to stabilize yourself. So let's walk through a practical framework for how you can start to build that coherence. Okay, first things first. We're going to shift our focus away from performance and onto consistency. So instead of asking, was I impressive today or did people like me, you start asking a different question. Was I consistent with my core values today? Your values become these anchors, right? They create a clear through line for your behavior, and that helps stabilize that internal map. Step 2 is about reducing all that role switching. Start to notice the different versions of you that you perform. Then consciously pick one trait, let's say it's honesty or maybe kindness, and just practice expressing that one trait in all the different situations you're in. That repetition builds self-familiarity. It literally strengthens the neural pathways for a more integrated identity. Third, we need to change our relationship with that inner critic. So when that voice pops up, don't fight it, don't argue with it, just observe it, and then label it for what it is. You can literally say to yourself, okay, that's just my brain trying to deal with uncertainty. This simple act creates distance. You start to see the thought not as some ultimate truth, but just as an alarm system going off.
And finally, number 4, you build your identity through what you do, not just through thinking about it. There's this idea in psychology called self-perception theory, and it shows that we often figure out who we are by watching our own actions. Small, consistent behaviors, they're like data points. You're giving your brain evidence of who you are, and that evidence is what builds a clearer, more stable you. So here's the big shift in perspective. We tend to think of identity as this finished statue that we have to go out and find somewhere, but a much better way to think about it is this. Identity isn't a statue. It's a pattern that you build, one action, one choice, one day at a time. And that leads us to a much more useful question. Instead of getting stuck in that horrible loop of why do I dislike myself, we can start asking a more diagnostic question. Okay, where is my pattern unclear? Where are the inconsistencies in how I'm showing up? You see, a quieter mind isn't the result of trying to force yourself to be positive. It's the natural outcome of a system that has finally found its coherence. It's something you build from the ground up through repeated actions that line up with your values across different parts of your life over time. So please remember this. You are not those harsh, critical thoughts in your head. You are the system underneath them. You are a system that is simply and very naturally searching for coherence. The noise, it's just a byproduct of that search.
So the next time that quiet dissatisfaction shows up, maybe you can meet it with a little more understanding. You're not fundamentally broken. You're not lost. You're a work in progress. You're just still assembling the map.